The preacher had put a chalkboard in the sanctuary, and when it came time for his sermon, he walked over to the chalkboard and wrote D-E-V-I-L, devil. And he turned around and he said, "You know, there are some people who think there is no devil." And they erased the D, and he said, No, they think there's just evil in the world. And then he turned around and he erased the E, and he said, "You know, there are other people who think that there's no evil. It's just that people do vile things." And then he erased the V. He said, "And there are still others who think, no, it's not that people are bad or vile. It's that they're ill." And then he erased the I. And he said, "And you know what I say to all of them? You can go to L." It's an old joke. I like it, though. You know, it's not really a very common topic. In fact, I try to think back, and in 43 years, how many times I've preached about the evil one, and I'm going to say this is probably the first time. But we see that again and again, not in John's gospel, not at all, but in Luke, in Matthew, and especially in Mark. Jesus is constantly confronting the power of evil in the world. There is this contest, and Jesus intends to win. That's very true. And so, you know, maybe it is worthwhile to pause to reflect a little bit about evil in our world. Is there a devil? I think so. I've never had any experience of that, but that's okay. I don't need that. There are some things I don't need to have to believe, you know? So I know there's evil in the world. Yes, I have felt the presence of evil on a few times in my life, and it was scary enough that I really pray that I'll never feel that again. You know, it was a scary moment when you have someone sitting in your office and you know that this is not someone who's possessed, but they are obsessed with evil. And there's something there. Oh, no, I like to steer clear of that. In fact, I remember praying under my breath all through that section. No, I think there's evil in the world. But you know, there is a tendency at times among people to want to find someone to blame. You know, I did something that I'm not proud of, that I'm actually ashamed of, and so I want to blame someone, because it couldn't have been me. And so, well, it was the devil tempted me. The devil made me do it. Those of us who are older remember a program that used to be on television, and there was a character on it whose name was Flip Wilson, and he would always play this woman called Geraldine who would say, "The devil made me do it." And people picked up that line and used it. I've heard that more than a few times, celebrating the sacrament of penance with people. And I go, really? Really? Did the devil make me do that? I don't know. I don't think so. I was about 7 or 8 when I started reading the comics. My dad worked for newspapers all of his life, starting from paper boy until he finally retired. And one of the things that we did is we had 3 newspapers coming into the house every day. And so I was 7 or 8 when I started reading the comics in all of them. And there was one comic strip that I really enjoyed, and it was called Pogo. And again, it's no longer around, but it was a great cartoon strip. It took place in the Okefenokee Swamp, and it had all these talking animals. Pogo was a possum who was the main character in the cartoon strip. But then there were other characters, and one of them was Alligator, who was actually an alligator. An alligator, this one cartoon strip, I remember I was about 8, and I remember reading that, and Alligator comes out with a paper pirate's hat on and a wooden sword in his hand, and he says, "We've met the enemy, and it is us." And I remember looking at that and saying, that's true. At 8 years old, somehow the truth of that resonated with me. And I've experienced that over the years. When I was a young priest, I had the great good fortune of living with an older priest, a guy who had been a missionary who talked about dealing with possessed people along the way in his time as a missionary, but he also was a very holy man. And one of the things that he did was he helped me understand my role as a confessor, because I told him this one day, I said, Joe, I feel exhausted when I walk out sometimes, especially when it's a long session. And there are reasons, but he said the most significant one that has stuck with me. He said, yes, because in the sacrament of penance, we always meet ourselves. And that may seem like an odd statement, but it's very true. Over the years of listening to people's sins, I don't sit there in judgment, because the truth is that there's nothing I have heard that I could ever say, oh, I wouldn't do that. In my heart of hearts, I know the truth, that I'm capable of everything I have heard. It just hasn't happened, hasn't been possible because the circumstances weren't there. But I do know that within me resides both good and evil. It isn't the devil who tempts me, it's Dave Howell who tempts me. I have met the enemy, and it is me. I am my own worst enemy. It's kind of like the way I type. I use all 10 fingers, but 6 of them always get in the way. I would be a great guy if it wasn't for my self-centeredness, my false pride, and my unwillingness to accept responsibility for those things that are in my control. No, it's me. It's me. I give in to that desire that's lower instead of reaching for what is higher. No, I think that it isn't the devil. I don't worry about that one. I worry about me. And that's why I need the Lord. I've come to the conclusion that, I'm not doing the Lord any favor in being his son. I'm not doing God any favor by being a priest. No, I need to do this. I need to be close to the Lord, because I know that without that, all that stuff that's in me, I could do that. I could do that. I need to stay close to the Lord. I need to cling to him, because he gives me the strength to be the better person. He gives me the ability to live love, the love that we celebrate here. It isn't that Jesus is a pleasant addition to human history. He is an absolute necessity. That left on our own, my sisters and brothers, humanity hasn't a prayer. It really doesn't. It is by the grace of God that human beings are able to rise above those tendencies within to become that better person. Jesus confronted the evil one again and again. And you and I think we also need to confront that possibility within us and realize our need for one another, because we give each other encouragement and hope. We walk with one another toward a kingdom. And we need to hang on to the Lord, to cling to him with all of his love, with all of his goodness, so that you and I can be more like him. No, I think there's an evil one, but I think there's also evil in me. And I pray every day that today I'll walk with the Lord and choose to do what's right and good and holy and true. I think that's the prayer of us all, that all of us will walk with the Lord today, that all of us will draw our strength from him, that all of us will draw our love from him, and then live it in a way that makes it known. You and I gather to celebrate that great love again. May we live it a little more faithfully this week, in a way that will proclaim it to a world that desperately needs to know that love. Amen.